Well, thought it was going to be a nice day. Instead, it's raining out. I told you I ran over a chipmunk today.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I did.
When did you tell us?
It was terrible. I felt like Clarice from Silence of the Lambs. Can't get it out of my head. I'll live.
How did you ran over?
Oh, he went this way and then he went that way, and I don't know. Maybe he might have been drunk. I have no idea.
How did chipmunk get drunk?
I don't know. Anyway, the reason for this video was I've been sending out vet reports all week. We've had a couple of babies over to get looked.
Are the horses having babies?
Shh, no, not yet. So
no, but do they have babies?
Honey, I don't know yet. I think they checked them this week. I hope they checked them this week. I'm getting a little frustrated. So,
Can you say that
we had some horses over. We had some horses over to the vet this week, some babies who were getting looked at. We had some horses to the university. Now, right off the top, the reason I'm making this video is for Sunshine's Finest. I started trying to text what the surgeon had told me. It's just not going to translate well. So, here goes. Sunshine's Finest. No talking. It's not a joke, so stop. Sunshine's Finest went to the vet clinic today, went to the university today to get a CT scan done of that fragment, the fragment in his cannon bone. Now, there was a multitude of reasons that the CT scan... Yeah, there's a multitude of reasons why the CT scan was very, very important to do. I had made reference to them. Virtually what they wanted to make sure at the time was they wanted to build a 3D model of that scan to make sure that they could screw into the bone. Now, it's important and very good reason, a very good thing that they did that, because, again, it's hard for me to understand. I'm sure it's hard for you to understand because you're not a surgeon. What they realized is the way the fragment was sitting and where it was sitting, they couldn't actually put a screw in it without going through the joint, which they can't do. So the vet told me she was going to better think about it for a little bit, and then they were going to make a decision whether they could put the screw in, but she was certain they couldn't, and she come back and said no, they could not. Not a big deal. She said the how did she put it? I want to use her terms. The fragment is building bony bridges to the structure, to the cannon bone. So it's healing. It's healing back in place. The screw was not an option. She said, Anthony, if we hadn't done the CT scan, we would have had to open the horse up and would have realized at that point we could not put that screw in. She said there were some some fracture lines. It may have split, and then that's it. She said, we simply can't put the screw in, which is fine. She said the prognosis is good. Now, many of you had asked me, what's the timeline? What's the timeline? I couldn't give you one. I can give you somewhat of one today. Natalie, the surgeon with the University of Guelph, says Sunshine's Finest will stand in the stall for another 8 weeks. He will be in the stall. That'll be 3 months in the stall. That's it for 2019. Again, I think most of you knew that anyway. The severity of that, the fact that this horse overcame a punctured joint with dirt in the joint. He overcome infection. The potential for infection in that joint was astronomically high. He beat that. The wound healed up. The fragment is settling back in place. And she said, is it perfect? No, it's not perfect. But if those bony bridges, so the bony bridges are important, and that's the way she put it. It shows that the fragment is connecting back to the cannon bone, which is what the screw would have helped do. Maybe quicker, but I can't answer that. The screw would have helped, but the positioning of the fragment made it ultimately impossible to put that screw in. So they sealed the they did the CT scan and realized they could not screw it. So he's now back he'll be back at the farm tomorrow. 2 months in the stall, re-X-ray to make sure that it confirms what they already suspect is that fragment, Ava, is that fragment is reattaching to the cannon bone. So that's good. No infection. The wound is healed. The horse is sound also, and that's very important. She said, Anthony, we can talk about all this. At the end of the day, there's horses I thought would make it back that didn't. There's horses I was sure that wouldn't, that did. She goes, ultimately, I'm looking at a horse walking sound. That's a big deal. So she believes that these bony bridges are going to keep that fragment stationary, reconnect it to the cannon bone, and that will be confirmed in 8 weeks. For those of you out there wondering, it's 8 weeks, 2 more months in the stall for Sunshine's Finest. Ultimately, we've come a long way, and he's come a long way. Guys, we both come a long way. I have too. From a fairly serious accident, and it looks like we're both going to come out on the other side. Hopefully, no worse for wear. So, for those of you hoping it was going to be a quick return, I apologize. Obviously, guys, when I ask you to stop, I mean stop.
He's doing
No,
this
you stop, and all of you stop too. So, obviously, I think for those of you out there wondering, is he going to be okay? It should be, I think, a breath of fresh air, I believe. Now, the surgeon's not going to tell you, don't worry, he'll make it back. She's still cautious. The horse is sound. The wound is healed. Guys, I asked you nicely once. The wound is healed. The fragment is connecting back to the bone, and the horse is sound. 3 very, very important things. So in that regard, it's good. I guess for those of us that were hoping the surgeons would come back and say, hey, start jogging him next week. That's not the case. So either way, I guess it wasn't bad and it wasn't good today. It wasn't great in the fact that they could put a screw in it and somehow we'd be able to, have some closure to this, some certain closure. But at the same time, good that the fact that, 1, the horse is sound, 2, the wound is healing, no infection, and most importantly, that fragment is reattaching with what the surgeon called bony bridges. So that is good. Sunshine and Shade, we got some great news on him. Those of you that may have been following this, the horse kicked through the wall and ended up cutting his leg, and it was really sore and swollen up to the point where he broke a piece of splint bone off. And I told you guys, splint bones sound worse than they are. In fact, this splint bone will probably, they took that fragment of splint bone out, and that, Ava, don't get the baby going, please. That fragment of splint bone is now out, and it's not going to pose any problems. And in fact, that splint bone will probably not pose a problem long before that swelling comes out. Now, for those of you that have really wrenched or torn a ligament, you know how painful it can be, and you know it takes some time. So I would say within the next 21 days, we'll have Sunshine and Shade back going. I would say another 2 weeks after that, hopefully, we'll be able to start training him. But from what Natalie has told me, no damage done to any soft tissue. The splint bone was a small fragment off a bone that's really not that important. It's really a bracing bone on the outside of the horse's leg. Over my career, I've had probably 15 of them taken out of horses, and all of them have ended up well, very, very well. So it's just taking that piece out. Now, because we did that quickly, there's no calcium now forming there between those two, the fragment and the bone, and also there's no arthritis. So Sunshine and great in Shade was great. Forged in Fire, the vet was very, very happy. I have to move, baby's gonna flip out. Forged in Fire's throat is good, and that's great. We also had, run through these quick, we had Nancy Allison to the vet, realized that Nancy Allison's feet really bother her, and we treated them today. We've made some shoeing changes to her. This may be a real pivotal point in Nancy Allison's growth, which is great. Who else do we have? Just talk to the baby bit.
That's confusing. Say maturity.
Say that again?
Say maturity.
Well, she is maturing. Yeah, her growth, I suppose. But some horses have sore feet. We've known Nancy Allison's feet pinch her a little bit for a while, but they were still sore today. So the vet actually did some veterinarian work to her feet. She'll be fine. For Friday, she's good to go. And then we can address that. We can address that and attack that moving forward. And then after that, Classic Khan's got a little line in his right knee. Vet says be cautious. We're going to give him a month in the field, or 2 weeks in the field, 2 weeks of light jogging. That's a great find by the vet, because I'm almost certain if we'd have tried to train him with what could be a shadow or a line in his knee, it would almost certainly erase the could be from that and the question mark from that. I've seen horses break their knees in bad ways. This is obviously with time treatable, and I don't want to say it's not a big deal. It's not something you want to see, but it will heal. Had he broke that, that's bad news, real bad news. So a great find by the vet. Very, very happy to get that taken care of. Again, that's going to set him back a little bit. Long racing year for this colt. He'll be back. Who was the third one? Nancy Alice. Oh, Zeb Sunshine. Zeb Sunshine's always, you guys have noticed it, he'll make odd breaks, seem a little uncomfortable on the track. He blew a big quarter crack and pus pocket out of that right front foot. We put a window bar on to take the pressure off it. Still bothers him a little bit. We tried to help him out a little bit with that foot today. And then also his right knee and his left hock, we knew those bothered him just a little bit, nothing serious. The vet has treated those and said to move on. So that's 3 horses we had to the vet. Those are the 3 horses we had at the university. Obviously 6 horses we'd rather not take, but we've had horses, we've had babies out to the vet all week. This is about our 8th or 9th one in the last 2 weeks, just to make sure. We're about to really push the accelerator. Eva, we're about to really push the yeah, we'll just talk less.
Baby language.
Are you? Thank you. I appreciate that. Obviously, we're about to really push the accelerator right now, and we don't want to hurt the horses. I've seen it happen time and time again. You go to really train the horses hard, qualify them, or race them their first 2 starts and blow them apart. Now's the time. There's your last chance to make sure it's all good. So some really interesting and important finds with some of our horses over the last week. The only horse we've had to stop with, I think, is Classic Con, just for a few weeks. So we've been on top of it. We've been taking care of it. And now the vet has green-lighted those horses. For the ones that haven't been, it isn't that they haven't been yet. Some of them are just perfect. Seem to be perfect. These are the horses that crept over on a shaft, got on a line, made breaks in odd places, things of that nature. Some of our best horses also. These aren't the middle of the road or the worst horses. We had knocked down, drag out, Johan over to the vet, Beach Boutique. These are horses that exhibited potential issues. Now they're all wrapped up and cleaned up. So that's a little bit of an injury report. As you know, we have 22 horses going tomorrow. That email will go out tonight. 22 Ontario breds, well, 20 Ontario breds and a couple of American breds. Actually, the French horse, Tiamo Hanover, is also going over there tomorrow. 22 horses leave the training center for the first time for themselves tomorrow to train, and then they lump them all together. 35 horses, 34 because Classic Con won't be going now. 34 horses to qualify on Saturday morning. Hope to see you guys out on Saturday morning that are in the area or close by. We'll have lots of donuts and coffee for everybody. Could be worse. I'm going to go to the gym right now, work out my wrist, and then work out my wrist and my legs a little bit, and cheer on West 52nd, Time All Too Low, and yes, tonight. Talk to you guys soon.